It's finally here. Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest. First episode of its anime is finally out, and man, does this feel so amazing. I have been following 100 Years Quest for the last 5 years, shortly after the manga started, and now I'm doing content on Fairy Tail, and now the anime is here, and I'm honestly really excited for it. I do have plans for Fairy Tail Fridays to keep going with not just chapter reviews, but also videos pertaining to what's going to be happening in the anime of 100 Years Quest, so look forward to all that. And for the time being, I'm going to try to cover the anime, give my thoughts on the anime adaptation, the events that are going on in the anime, how well paced it is, episode by episode, for however long I can. I am definitely going to be stretching myself thin with this and the other content I got planned for my channel, but I hope you guys can understand and follow me for as long as I can with this, because 100 Years Quest is a consecutive 2-core anime, so it's going to be going into the end of the year, so the end of December, so 25 whole episodes. So that's a lot of Fairy Tail content and a lot of stuff that we got going on. Before I jump into my review of the first episode of 100 Years Quest, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Also, if you want to support the channel more directly, my Patreon has been fully updated with a really nice amount of goodies for you guys, whether it be early access to videos up to a week early, shoutouts at the end of my videos, access to my Patreon-only Discord server, access to polls, etc., etc. I'm also trying to set up a live stream every week, whether it be watching the new episodes of Fairy Tail as they come out, or just doing live read-throughs of other manga that I'm not covering on the channel, but would just want to read and talk about them with you guys. I'm still setting things up for that to be live streamed on Patreon, but look forward to that as that's coming very soon. With that out of the way, let's jump right into this episode. So the very first episode of 100 Years Quest honestly starts off like the manga did, where we get basically a destroyed city and a wizard walking through the rubble talking about how magic isn't evil and that they have to protect the wizards, and how the very first wizard guild was formed. This was a piece of world building that we never really got anything from originally in the original Fairy Tail series, where we just expected Fairy Tail and the whole wizard guild thing to be around for a long time, and it was 100 years ago, showcasing that even though it's been a long time, it's still a relatively new thing to an extent, at least in regards to a century. So that's a really nice piece of world building. But we also get reintroduced in the present day to all the characters of the Fairy Tail Guild. And man, even though I was reading the manga, just hearing the VAs, especially the Japanese VAs, for everyone in the guild, Makarov, Mira Jane, Loxus, everybody in the Thunder Legion, Elfman, Kana, Juvia, Levi, Ganjio, Lily, it just felt so nostalgic. I've been going back and rewatching the Fairy Tail anime and going back to the manga so I could be more prepared on stuff I know about Fairy Tail. But it just felt so nice to just not only see them once more reprise their roles in the Japanese VAs, but in a current animation style, pretty modern day pacing, and going on with a bunch of other big series that are going on right now. It just feels so nice to really get into it, and I just miss these guys so much, and I look forward to more weekly Fairy Tail content. But we get introduced to 3 more members of Fairy Tail, 2 of which get scared off by Loxus because once he comes back from the guild, this one guy is raving about how Fairy Tail is the strongest, he's gonna make Fairy Tail the strongest, all that stuff, basically acting like a very pompous Loxus, just with no power to really back it up after he just gets knocked to the ground by pissed off Loxus. Then there's a kid there that just runs away because Loxus scared him. And then we get introduced to our brand new character of Toka, who is there because of Natsu. She fell in love with Natsu after he saved her from a bunch of bandits a year ago during the time Fairy Tail was disbanded, right before the Alvarez arc. And so she wanted to come here and meet Natsu. But Makarov reveals that Natsu, along with Wendy, Erza, Lucy, Gray, Happy, and Carla, all went off to take this 100-year quest. A quest that has not been completed in well over 100 years. Thus the title of the anime. Now really quick, I do want to say that I'm really happy that we got to see each and every one of the named and main Fairy Tail Guild members just being who they are. It really showcases that their character dynamics and character quirks are just so well defined that even just seeing them for a moment just fills you with a sense of just familiarity. That's something that I like about the Fairy Tail Guild as a whole. But we cut to Natsu and the crew as they're going across the brand new continent of Giltina to make it to the first Wizard Guild, Magia Dragon, where the client of the 100 Years Quest is presiding. We get to see some really cool imagery, some really nice artwork, just bringing Giltina alive with so much different colors. And I have to admit, this anime is giving us a lot more in terms of visuals than the original anime. Whether it be the coloring, the lighting for the area, it just feels so nice. It's a weird saying. It just hits different than the original Fairy Tail anime. Even though it does have its charm, I do think this one does a lot better in terms of giving you a lot with the visuals. Speaking of which, I should have leveled this earlier, but a lot of people were concerned about the art style now with the brand new studio being JC Staff, who's same studio as Eden Zero, as well as the animation. But based off this first episode and even the opening, which is a banger, I'm planning to do a whole video breaking down the opening at some point. I need to get stuff planned out. But things are looking up. This actually looks like a very well-paced, well-animated season for Fairy Tail. And yes, this is a season like I mentioned. Team Natsu are just goofing around until they eventually make it to Magia Dragon and enter the Wizard Guild, as they're encountered with a giant dragon resting on top of a ceiling, greeting them as the 99th hero. And this was definitely a big shock when I read it in the manga and now in the anime. I love Elefseria's design. Even in the anime, it looks so great, and it did capture a good amount of the detail in the anime, presiding with all of the coloring and shading. It looks very well done. And I just like the interactions and how Natsu literally sniffed out that Elefseria is a human. And also, the reveal that he is a Dragon Slayer that is the exact same type of person as akaDAEDUM is definitely a big point in this story, because in the original Fairy Tail, Dragon Slayers that became dragons was akaDAEDUM and Irene, Erza's mother. So that is a big thing, and now it's shown that Elefseria taught himself Dragon Slayer magic in order to fight dragons, but eventually became a dragon himself due to the, curse, essentially, of Dragon Slayer magic, where all Dragon Slayer magic leads to. We got a bit of a gag of him trying to be all mysterious, teleports all around the room, to the point where he goes into Lucy's chest. Yes, that is a joke. I'm okay with it. It's not really that funny to me, but either way, it is what it is. I think they just wanted to throw in a fan service joke here and there. It's Fairy Tail, I let it slide. And it's not really the worst of it. But yeah, we get into the nitty-gritty of the details where we end up having to do the 100 Years Quest, where everybody signs up for the 100 Years Quest and is being told what to do about it. And I like how it's been reestablished that Gildarts took this very same quest. He couldn't give details on it to Natsu, but he did fail the 100 Years Quest, losing an arm, a leg, and most of his guts were ripped out, obviously because during this quest, he encountered akaDAEDUM during his travels, and thus had to return early after some very major and life-altering injuries, though that hasn't stopped him from still being one of Fairy Tail's strongest members of the entire guild. But I like how Natsu made a point that Gildarts went by himself, he's going with everybody else, so he's got backup, and he's not going to really feel the despair that Gildarts ended up feeling when he encountered akaDAEDUM. I also like that before Lucy signs, we get a flashback of their travel to Giltina, as Virgo tells Lucy that she has a feeling she'll go through a whole other reunion in Giltina. Obviously, with the imagery of Aquarius' broken key, Aquarius' key is probably going to pop up in Giltina. So Lucy taking on this 100 Years Quest will 100% mean that she will encounter Aquarius at some point during her travels. So we got one of Lucy's main goals for taking the 100 Years Quest basically being to reunite with Aquarius, which I am very happy with, and I'm glad that this is one of Lucy's main plot points in 100 Years Quest going forward. But after everybody signs the documents and agree to take on the 100 Years Quest, the full-on details of the 100 Years Quest are revealed, being that it is a dragon slaying or dragon hunting quest, where they have to find the 5 dragon gods of Giltina and steal them away. Stealing away is incredibly vague. It's never really stated whether they have to kill them or actually steal away their power or just flat out defeat them. It's still very vague in the manga, and it plays into some bigger theories that we have to look forward to, in which I do have planned for the channel in the future. But I like how they state how powerful the dragon gods are. They weren't around during the Dragon Kings Festival when akaDAEDUM went on his rampage, killing a ton of dragons, bathing in their blood, becoming the Dragon King, being the strongest of all time, yada yada yada, all that. The Dragon King Festival is based on information that a lot of fairy tale fans know at this point. It's a big part of its lore. But after coming here, they've all essentially grew in strength and thus stayed in their own areas, stayed hidden, and they don't really interact with one another. But if they do, it causes a lot of catastrophes. And Eleftheria is very concerned that at some point, their power could essentially bring catastrophe to the world, which is why he originally wanted to learn Dragon Slayer magic to seal them away, but it wasn't enough, and thus the 100 Years Quest was formed. So yeah, they end up taking on the 100 Years Quest, and they go off to Ermina for clues on the water dragon god Merkphobia, who is the first dragon god they're off to go find and eventually seal. But we also cut back to the guild, where Gajiel actually notices something from Toka's interactions with Juvia, as the two of them are basically having a who has more love interests for their love interests, essentially. Big rivalry for these two somehow, and I kind of like it. I miss Juvia's whole overprotectiveness of Gray and obsession with Gray. It's actually kind of funny regarding who Juvia is, and Toka basically is kind of doing the same thing with Natsu, but to a much lesser extent, which I find kind of funny. But Gajiel notices that Toka mentions Briar, who is a woman from the Avatar Guild, essentially the Avatar cult that worships Zareth, that him and Levi essentially helped arrest after Natsu, Erza, Lucy, and Gray took them down right before the final arc of the main manga. But her name wasn't disclosed to the public, so now Gajiel and Lily, dressed up as detectives and sleuths, try and tail her to find out what's going on, because things are kind of suspicious. And I like how Juvia's instantly on board with this, and Levi's kind of, are you really going to suspect one of our own members and all that? And it's just kind of like going along with it just for the fact that it's Gajiel, but finds it kind of dumb. Look, I stated this in a TikTok, but we need a fairy tale spin-off of just Gajiel and Lily being sleuths, and it just being a comedic duo. It needs to be a spin-off. I'm putting it right here. This needs to be a thing. Mashima, if you're hearing me, make this a 10-chapter, a single volume, a one-shot of just Gajiel and Lily being detectives. We all want this. This is the best idea ever for a spin-off. That's kind of my whole thing for spin-offs. I love Gajiel and Lily, and I feel like this would be a very hilarious spin-off if that was actually to be a thing. It just feels too good of an introduction to a concept to not do. But that's essentially everything going on with the Fairy Tail Guild at the moment. And then Team Natsu make it to Ermina as they're trying to look for clues on the Water Dragon God, as well as looking over Elefthere's reward for the quest being any wish that he can grant. And everyone's wondering what that one wish can in fact be, as it's incredibly open-ended and kind of vague. With the episode ending with the Water Dragon God himself, Merkphobia, and his companion, who I'm not going to say a name yet because we'll get a name within the next episode or two, are looking down at Natsu's group, stating that they got new visitors. So that ends the episode. Honestly, this did about 3 chapters of the manga, and I have to say, animation-wise from what we got, storyboarding, art direction, character designs, the music, voice acting, everything in this episode was done very well. This was definitely a big setup episode. There wasn't any big bombastic fights in this whole thing, but it was meant to set up what the series is going to be about, the motivations for our main cast, set up that we're going to be coming back to the main Fairy Tail Guild with its own little subplot right now, and building up for the whole Dragon Gods thing. Something I didn't mention for some reason was that Eleftheria stated that the Dragon Gods, while hidden, were essentially at this point as strong as akaDAEDUM, which is a big thing. Even though Natsu did beat akaDAEDUM, that was still a big team effort, and at that point, they barely won. So that is still a very big thing and showcases the threat of 5 dragons that are on the level of that literal walking disaster. But yeah, this is a very fun episode. I'm very happy Fairy Tail is back. I'm visually incredibly consistent, and I feel like it's going to be better than ever. And I just cannot wait to see this arc and the fights that we get in this whole section of the story be animated, and just for the whole season in general. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. This is a good setup episode for this entire section of the story, for the arc and the whole season and series as a whole, and I look forward to when we get into the real meat of this arc and subsequent season of the anime. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below on this episode and how you feel it was adapted. Also, if you're anime only, let me know what your theories are in the comments section down below, and what your favorite moment from this episode was for anime and manga fans as well, as there were a lot of really wholesome, funny, just out there moments just that really screamed fairy tale. Manga readers, please, for the love of God, because I know there's at least one person that's going to do stuff like this in the comments, do not spoil the manga for anime onlys. I've kept this incredibly, literally, anime safe. So please, do not do spoilers in the comment section. If you feel like doing spoilers in the comment section, literally do like 10 spaces so that nobody just casually scrolling will see the spoilers. I hate that I have to mention this, but this happens in so many of my videos regardless of whether or not it's based off of what's currently going on in the manga or not. So please, no spoilers, unless you do what I just mentioned. But yeah, those are all my thoughts on the anime. I cannot wait to keep covering this for as long as I can, and for the other Fairy Tail content I got planned for Fairy Tail Fridays. But with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.